Hello, Scrappy friends. Welcome to another Crazy Craft Obsession YouTube video. My name is Cassandra and welcome. If you haven't already, like and subscribe because it helps us so much. We really appreciate your support. Today we're using the Fun Times collection from Simple Stories. It's a new one out on the market. It's all about fairs and carnivals, popcorns, rides. You get the gist. Now there is a blog post linked in the description box down below where you can check out all of the things that I've used to make this layout, and you can follow along like a little free tutorial, which is what we do them for. I've taken this pattern paper out of the 12x12 collection kit. It kind of looks like all these different tickets kind of collaged into one, and I looked at that and went, that is the perfect paper for paper piecing little bits of paper together. So that's what the tutorial's on today, is doing that technique. You can see I've trimmed down all of the different colours just along the line where the colour starts. I'm dividing them into their colour groups because there was a couple of repeated patterns. And then I'm going to put this scrap piece of paper on my trimmer at the 1 inch mark. This is a technique that I picked up off Collie Bing. I'll link her YouTube channel down below. She does a lot of this paper piecing stuff. I simply love watching her work. But she said that doing this with a scrap piece of paper helps her cut a straight line every time for these pattern papers. You kind of butt your pattern paper up against the scrap piece of paper and it means that there's less wiggle room for error. So top tip of today. I'm not going to make you sit and watch me cut all of this pattern paper, but I'm just cutting 1 inch squares of each colour. There was a couple of colours I missed, but mainly each colour. Once I'm finished with that, I'm going to put them on my tray from, this one here is from Craft Online, but I absolutely love the Scrapbook.com ones as well. And just put them off to the side. I've arranged them in their little groupings. Today I've got 3 3x4 photos that I've printed on my Epson 8500 EcoTank printer. It's of my son and my husband at a little fair ride that we went to a couple of weekends ago. Ironically, I got a photo of them on the teacups and the dodgems, but he was too little to go on the dodgems even though they let him sit in there, and the teacups stopped working as soon as they went on it, so he didn't get to go on either of those rides, which is part of my journaling that I'm going to add to this. I've taken my T-Sky ruler and I'm measuring out at 10 inches from the top and 7 inches from the top, giving me a 3-inch wide strip across the bottom, or across the lower bottom portion. This is where my paper piercing is going to go. Paper piercing, paper piecing. Those words are so similar. You can see I'm going to draw a straight line just in a lead pencil, just in case it peeks through, then I can erase it out, but don't stress, it doesn't peek through. I'm also going to add some double-sided adhesive all over this area. This is better than glue in my opinion because it's got a little bit of wiggle room, and you'll see I've had to use that twice in this tutorial, and I left that in to show you that even the best of us make mistakes. I'm then taking these little squares and arranging them butted up against each other along that line. Not in any particular colour order, I'm just trying not to put two similar colours next to each other or the same colour next to each other. Super easy, super quick, and it looks amazing. No one would know this started out as a whole piece of pattern paper, and it's fantastic for using up your 6x6 and 6x8 paper pads, any scraps. You know, you get your money's worth out of these kind of layouts. You can see that I had to pull them back up off that double-sided tape and re-stick them because they weren't going in a straight line. If you've been around here long enough, you know that straight lines are my nemesis. I can never cut straight, can never really lay a straight. It's just not me. So I accept that some things are going to be crooked. You might do a better job than me. That's perfectly fine. You can see I'm coming into my second layout. Again, I'm trying not to put the same colour next to each other, but just butting it up against that left-hand side and bottom to try and form a straight-ish line. And we're going to continue on to the top row. One other thing I want to stress with this pattern paper is I'm making sure all of the font is the correct way up, because it did have like a little, I don't know what you'd call it, like a ticket system, kind of like a library card system on it. on each one, and I just wanted that the numbers and the letters, even though you can't read what it says anymore, to be the right way up, otherwise it would look kind of strange. On to the last row now. You can see it's not taking that much time at all. It was a nice soothing process. I kind of find these processes quite relaxing. I watch a YouTube video or a podcast, or listen to a podcast while I do it, and kind of sit back and enjoy the process. The cutting out for me is the most stressful part. Making sure that it's straight. Straight cuts is very difficult for me. Here we go. Now my photos are going to overlap this a little bit, so I wasn't overly concerned about that top row being 100% straight in the middle. And you can see towards the edge there it gets a little bit crooked. You might be able to do a bit better. Because I had to lift some of them up, I'm coming in with some Bailey art glue. Just it's got that really long, fine nozzle, and you're able to get underneath them quite easily to glue the little pokey uppy bits down. And this is one of the hacks that I have found recently from another crafter. I can't remember who, but using that Cricut spatula to lift up paper pieces, oh, that is a game changer. Now, if you're like me and you don't like sewing, I'm just using a black pen and a ruler to do some faux stitching. If you follow Nicole Bingeman, on YouTube, you'll know that she does tone-on-tone stitching with DMC floss. I don't have the time nor the energy for that, so I'll stick to my faux stitching. Other people like to use a sewing machine. It just depends what level of detail you want to go into and what's right for you and your time frame. But there's a couple of different choices there that you can do for this. You'll see that the stitching though, whether it's faux or otherwise, just brings it to the next level. It just gives it that chef's kiss worth of detail. Even just a little bit there has highlighted each individual square. So I've gone horizontal on each horizontal square pattern, and then I'm just going vertical so that each little square has stitching around it. I don't know how better to describe that. Hopefully you understand. Then I am going to finish up here with all this stitching in a second. I did leave all this in just so that if you're following along, you have a chance to catch up a little bit. You can pause the video if you need a bit more time. I'm just here to show you the process and how I've done it, and then you can slow it down or fasten it up if you need more time on how to do it. But we love doing these free little tutorials for people to get you using the collections and the kits and stash and stuff and get you crafting. Here I come back in with my photos. You can see they're very bright and colourful photos, and that pattern paper down the bottom just looks amazing with them. Off camera, I've added a little tiny bit of a black mat, just using some American Craft black cardstock around them. They just needed that little bit of emphasis there to stand out a little bit more than what I would have gotten with the white mat that I had. And then I'm taking the foam phrase stickers, I think they're just called foam stickers now, from Simple Stories, and because it was a spring fair, because here in Australia we're coming into spring, I have just chosen the title fair, the fair. Off camera, I've gone ahead and picked out a whole heap of icons and ephemera from the journaling ephemera as well as the standard ephemera that relate to the fair that we went to. So there was the dodgems, there was the fair tickets, cameras, my son got a balloon animal. We had a go at knocking some ducks down. He went fishing in a pond for some ducks. You throw the fishing line in and turn the duck over and it's got a number on it. He had a great time doing that. He thought that was amazing. So I'm just looking for little things that will trigger my memory on those sorts of things that we've done to add up the top and form a scene. This is another technique that I've picked up off Nicole Bingeman, and honestly, I love it. I would normally look at this ephemera and go, how am I going to use this? This is crazy. But watching tutorials, taking classes, I'm a big advocate for taking other people's classes as well and learning off each other, has shown me lots of different ways that my brain wouldn't normally think of. Being a scientist, I find that my brain is very literal. So I would look at that and go, a dodgem can't sit on top of a photo. What is this? It has to go on the bottom. But people have shown me otherwise, how to look at that and think of it in different ways. Now that I've got all of my photos stuck down, and I've just stuck them down flush with some double-sided tape and adhesive, I'm going to come in and stick all this ephemera down. So I'm going to prop some of it up on foam. You'll see here with the fair, I don't know what you'd call it, fair poster. I've stuck the bottom down flush underneath my photos, but prop the top up on foam. This is just adding a little bit of dimension. I like to use a really thin foam for this so it doesn't take up too much room in my scrapbook page, in my scrapbook albums, and I can fit more album pages in, but I still like to have that bit of dimension. It looks good. I'm bringing in stuff from the sticker sheet as well, so you can see I've brought in a carousel. There's this dodgem sticker that I didn't see initially that I just simply had to put in because that story of the dodgems was hilarious. They went to ride the dodgems. Initially they said yes, he can go on as long as Dad's driving. Not that that means anything, because I don't think Dad driving would make it any safer. But then we also couldn't fit the seatbelt over him, so my little man had to hop off. Then I've got the full-on dodgem carousel sort of thing there, a camera that I'm adding in, and you can see I'm just tucking and layering things over the top of each other to form, you know, a scene, but also some layering. I'm not sticking them directly next to each other, so it looks like it's been kind of collaged. Then I've got these 2 tickets off the sticker sheet. I am also going to bring in, I thought about bringing in those 2 balloon animal dogs, but they were too cute to add to this layout. They just didn't have anywhere to go now, and I wanted to bring them in somewhere really beautiful because I really love those dogs. So I'm going to save them for another layout. Instead, I thought about bringing in these fireworks, but there was only 2, and I kind of felt like I needed 3, so we're leaving those alone. Instead, I'm going to use these balloons. And again, I'm going to prop the balloon part up and stick down the string of the balloon flush to the page to give it a little bit of dimension. Of course, if you're making this layout and some of these icons don't really apply to your photos, you can swap them out for others. It doesn't matter. As long as what suits you, you do you, I'll do me. I'm just here to teach you the techniques and tricks and show you the tips and everything like that of the trade. I'm going to add 1 more balloon for a visually pleasing odd number. It's going to go in the middle there, down, like tucked down, because that divot looks nice in the ephemera pieces. It's kind of a little bit of an interesting, I don't know, not everything is straight across. It adds a little bit of interest to it. Then I'm going to stick down the fair title here. I've chosen to put it on the left hand side because my journaling is actually going to go on the right hand side on some printed white paper strips. Then I'm bringing in just a couple of tiny word stickers. This one here says snapshot, and then I did try to bring in a pink one to bring a little bit more pink to this left hand side, but my dodgems were sitting down a little bit and it would have covered them over a little bit too much. So instead I settled for another one, which I think says so much fun. It was a fun day. It was really fun. My little man ran a fever after this though, so he had fun, but he was coming down sick, so it surprised me that he had so much fun there. Then I'm adding a little glitter and some stars. These are from the journaling ephemera. I'm just adding 5 again for a visually pleasing number. We work in odds because that's what our brain likes for some reason. Then I'm going to come in with some glittery enamel dots from this collection. I love it when you can add glitter to a layout without getting messy, so anything blingy is for me. I like to add enamel dots in the rule of thirds, again visually pleasing in different shapes and sizes. I think this just works really well to draw your eye to little aspects. It's kind of like the finer details of a layout, I like to call it. I'm adding them to the right hand side there just to bring down that ephemera a little bit, and I'm going to do the same to the left hand side. So I used the red ones on the right hand side, orange ones on the left hand side. Then I'm going to use some tone on tone ones near the word fair. So I'm going to put them on the pink and the blue. And then the green, and I realised after putting my glue dot on the green, there's no green enamel dot. So the yellow one luckily is like an off yellow kind of green, and worked quite well for that. And the blue one. And lastly, I'm going to put some blue ones up the top near that orange balloon just to kind of add that rule of thirds, because I've got 4 clusters. I needed 5, that odd number. And it seems to work out quite well there. Then I decided that is enough embellishing. Time to put down the embellishing packs, pack them away, focus on something else. So I'm adding a stitched border around my white cardstock and just lining it up with the stitches on the pattern paper there to finish off the layout. I find that this really finishes off and kind of frames your layout a little bit if you're not going to add a mat to your layout. And it just adds that chef's kiss worth of detail. You don't have to do it. Another thing I like to do is to ink blend my edges of my layout, and it does the same sort of idea. Again, you could use a sewing machine for this. My sewing machine and I aren't friends. I have bought a new sewing machine. I haven't broken it out of the box yet. I have a little bit of anxiety there with it. One day I might do that, but we're not friends at the moment. So if you're friends with your sewing machine, it looks fantastic when people do that. I've got some still shots coming up of the layout. Feel free to scrapbook it and post it in our community group. All the details will be in the description box below. Thanks for watching, and I've got some suggested videos coming up if you want to support me further. Have a great day, guys. Bye.